Hello, and welcome to another edition of Media Style and Structure Video Tutorials. And this is just kind of another installment of my sort of attempts to put some video tutorials together for the class to kind of handle the big questions that we tend to have, the common ones. And these are I thought that well, this is probably my third or fourth one of these that I've done, so hopefully they're working out for you. This one is on commas, and you may be wondering why in the heck I decided to make a whole video about something as small, as minuscule as the old comma. But as you know, if we take the comma out, sometimes it can really mess things up. And of course also, there are the times when we have to use them to offset introductory clauses or separate independent clauses and all those kinds of other things. And this is just because we just tend to be confused about it, and it's not anything to feel bad about. Everybody confuses the comma. So, I've got to watch my own comma usage too. It's just something we all have to work on. So hopefully these examples that we're going to work here will help. If you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to ask. Don't hesitate to shoot me an email. Ask me during class, after class, my office hours, and we'll get it sorted out. And again, just like the other rules in this class, the other things that we have to follow, the best thing to really do is to practice as much as possible and as regularly as possible. So some people will kind of say, well, I practice my problems and such maybe 3 or 4 times a week, maybe 5 times a week, etc. Really need to work on stuff for this class every day. And I wouldn't say that if that weren't the case. It's just one of those deals. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough one. But if you do stuff every day, if you memorize, and if you apply, you're going to be just fine. And this is hopefully going to help you with that. So let me get my examples rolling here and stop wasting your time with small talk. All right. So this is the aptly titled set of examples and little quick tutorial here on everything you've ever wanted to know about commas. So we've got independent and dependent clauses, nouns of direct address, introductory clauses, all the other kinds of things that need commas that tend to confuse us when we're writing and trying to pay attention to our punctuation. So let's go through a few of these really quick. Whoops, I wanted to show you this. I thought this was really funny, and this is just kind of show you what happens when you don't put the comma where it needs to be. Because here we have this cover of a magazine here. It's got Rachel Ray on there and her very sweet dog that seems to be very happy. It says, "Eat, Ray, love." Rachel Ray finds inspiration in cooking her family and her dog. Well, someone should probably call the authorities about that, because I believe that's illegal. So, but of course, we would fix this by putting a comma after cooking and before her family, right? So anyway, that's just some little unintentional hilarity there that came about because people didn't use punctuation right. Alrighty, so let's roll on here. Commas. 3 big things that confuse us have to do with comma usage related to independent, dependent clauses, usage related to non-essential and essential clauses, and we're going to talk about all these. Commas used with introductory clauses, and then we'll have a few other little tips to kind of roll through. Alright, so we use commas and conjunctions to separate independent clauses. The conjunctions there are important, right? We need both of these when we have 2 independent clauses. And if you're a little confused about what an independent clause is, that's understandable. They can be confusing sometimes, but what we want to do is just look for the ones that express complete thoughts. They are expressing, when you get to the end of it, you know what the subject is, you know what the verb is. Okay. So if they, in other words, if they stood on their own, if they were just by themselves, these clauses, then they would be complete sentences and not sentence fragments, right? All right. So we'll try this example here. I would like to have a Brahms sundae. That was me a couple nights ago. I really wanted a Brahms sundae, but my heart's just been broken since they got rid of the peanut butter specialty sundae that they had. That was awesome. All right, so I would like to have a Brahms sundae, but the store discontinued my favorite one that had peanut butter on it. That is the honest to God truth. So here we have, let's look at this first clause here. I would like to have a Brahms sundae. That expresses a complete thought, doesn't it? Okay. So the next one. The store discontinued my favorite one that had peanut butter on it. Okay. So here we have an issue with, obviously this is another complete thought, right? This has a subject, the store, the verb is discontinued. Okay. So we've already established, so we've got two clauses here that express complete thoughts. Well, notice here we've got the comma after Sunday, and then we put but. It's one of our conjunctions that we can use, and it makes sense for the in the greater context of the meaning of the sentence. So we're going to join these two clauses here, but we need that comma in the conjunction, and the comma goes before the conjunction. Okay, it's easy enough to see here on the screen and think about. It's not complex. It's just the hard part is just catching it in our own work when we're writing along, because there's just so many things we have to pay attention to when we write. So let's go into the next one here. Commas and independent clauses examples. I would like to have a Brahms sundae, but the store discontinued my favorite one that had peanut butter on it. We know that we need the comma and the but in there. Okay. If we know that those clauses will stand on their own. Okay. And we know that both of them have subjects and verbs. Okay. All right. So I took the car to the mechanic and the flower shop. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to break up these two clauses here and separate them from each other, and we'll see if they can stand alone. I took the car to the mechanic. That stands alone, right? It's a complete thought. All right. The flower shop. That, however, is not a complete clause, a complete thought. And that's obvious to us, right? So it's clear here that we have one independent clause, but we have another clause here that won't stand on its own, and that's what we call a dependent clause. And we do not separate commas or separate dependent clauses from the rest of the sentence here. If they're followed by a conjunction and they appear at the end of the sentence, we do not put a comma before that conjunction there. Okay? So we just need to look for, again, these complete thoughts. And here all we really have is, a subject. And if we had some more information there, the flower shop clause we could make it independent, but we don't. Okay? I took the car to the mechanic in the flower shop. Should we put a comma after mechanic? No, we shouldn't. All right. So hopefully that's not too bad. There's no way he could have lifted that. He's not strong enough. All right. So here we have two of these clauses here that are complete thoughts, but there is something wrong with these things. But you'll note that we do have the comma in there separating these two, and that's good because we need it, right? Well, what else is it missing? If you said it's missing the conjunction, then you're on ball. So really what we could do here is we could make a semicolon. We tell students to do that in the school. We teach the semicolon in that sense, and that is one of the uses of it. In fact, it's not really used very often out there in the world, so to speak, but a lot of times what we'll do here is we'll just make these two separate sentences, or we'll insert the conjunction after the comma there and just leave them as two independent clauses in one sentence. Okay, but that's what we want to do here is just kind of an easy thing. If you want to just change one thing, we can just change the semicolon like we do here at the bottom. There's no way he could have lifted that. He's not strong enough. All right, easy enough. Let's roll into essential and non-essential clauses. So again, these essential clauses here are ones that we need to have in a sentence in order for the sentence to make sense. In order for the reader to appreciate the full meaning of that sentence, okay, we need that essential clause in there. So here we have the example of the dog catcher picked up the dog that was terrorizing the neighborhood. Well, it's reasonable for us to expect that there are more than one. There could potentially be another dog in the neighborhood, right? So we need to be specific. So this part about that was terrorizing the neighborhood, that clause there is essential. And you'll note that we start that clause off with that. Okay. Sometimes we don't actually need that. We've talked about that in our conciseness and wordiness section. Sometimes we can take it out, and the rule essentially is if you take that out and the sentence still works without it, then you can take it out, and that's fine. In this instance, we could probably take out "that was" and just say "picked up the dog terrorizing the neighborhood." Still makes sense, right? It's maybe a little awkward, and really what we want to do is we want to write as less awkward as possible. But that is just one of the ways here that we start off these essential clauses. Again, that we need to know specifically which dog that dog catcher picked up. All right, so rolling into a little more information here on these clauses and specifically getting into non-essential clauses, we set those off from the rest of the sentence with a comma. Okay? And these are ones that we don't need in order to understand the meaning of a sentence. So in the test for that is if you think you have a clause in the sentence that is modifying something, providing some information, and if you take it out and the sentence still makes sense without it, the reader can get the gist of the sentence without that clause in there, okay, then that clause is non-essential. That doesn't mean we don't need it necessarily. It doesn't mean well, that's the wrong term there. Perhaps what I mean is that doesn't mean that you should take it out, okay? Because maybe we feel like that it presents some nice detail for the reader. It just means that if you took it out, the reader could still get the gist of the sentence, okay? Well, we start these off with which, and we also separate them from the sentence itself with commas. And if they appear in the middle of the sentence, we got to remember to put those commas on both sides, right? So here's an example. This is the Johnsons took the dirtiest of their 3 dogs, Robert, to the groomers. Okay, this is a non-essential clause, but in some of them we don't actually set off with which, and this is an example of one of those. And this is the reason why this is non-essential here. Is because why? If you said because only one dog can be the dirtiest, right? Because that's the superlative form of the adjective dirty. In other words, we're saying one, right? The dirtiest of the 3 dogs. There's only one of those. There's no confusion out of which of those 3 dogs we're taking to the groomers here. Then the dog's name, Robert, is non-essential. Okay. All right, so looking at some other non-essential clauses. Nouns of direct address tell us to whom a statement is addressed. They are non-essential. Okay, this is an example here would be, class, please take out a sheet of paper. Well, here I am telling the class to take out a sheet of paper. Okay? But this sentence still works when we take class out. Let's take it out and capitalize please. It's still a complete thought, right? The subject, this noun direct address here could be applied. Implied is what I mean. Excuse me. So anyway, so it's not essential that the reader understand that the statement is addressed to the class, because it's just you get the same meaning out of that sentence. So it is. So we treat those as non-essential. Okay. Other examples would be of one that starts off with which would be the car, which was badly damaged, was parked in the owner's driveway. We don't have any information there that would make us think that that which was badly damaged is essential to the meaning of the sentence, right? It's just kind of extra information. We could put that in parentheses if we wanted to, but so what we'll do then is we'll put those commas on both sides of that sentence, okay? On both sides of that clause, pardon me. So it would be the car, comma, which was badly damaged, comma, was parked in the driveway. All right. So some other comma tips for us here. We use commas to offset state names from the rest of the sentence when paired with the city or town name. This is just to remind you about how we do that. We use commas to offset the year when paired with the full date in a sentence. Again, this is just a little reminder. Okay, that's how we do it. And if that date is appearing in the middle of the sentence, that full date, don't forget the comma that closes off the year. So it would be January 10th, comma, 1979, comma, and then the rest of the sentence. Okay. We put commas at the ends of most clauses that start sentences off. We call those introductory clauses. Okay, so if you have a clause or phrase starting off a sentence, good rule of thumb is just to put the comma at the end of it before you get into the actual subject and the verb to the sentence that expresses the complete thought. Okay. We also separate to from the rest of the sentence when we mean also. Okay. So if you had a sentence that said something like, I went to the park too, okay, in other words, where we mean also, then we would put a comma before to. So it would be, I went to the park, comma, to. We also separate coordinate adjectives with commas, okay? But we do not do that with coordinate adjectives that deal with ethnicity, color, age, or race. And the way you can tell whether you have a coordinate adjective or not is, A, you can put and between these two adjectives if they appear before what they modify, and it still makes sense. You can also tell if you switch the order of them around. If you switch the order around and it still makes sense, then that tells you have coordinate adjectives, and you can we'll separate those with commas, unless they fit with this big exception here. And this is really kind of what confuses people as it relates to coordinate adjectives and commas. Okay, and if you have any questions about this or anything else that we've covered, don't hesitate to ask. I love kind of hashing these things out with students, and I love working through these issues with people. So that's why I'm here. Just ask questions if you're confused. All right. So that is our quick little comma tutorial. Hopefully this answers some of your big questions. If you've got any questions at all that I haven't answered, or maybe I've confused you more, I hope not. I hope this makes sense. Just let me know, and I'm here to help. All right. Thanks very much for watching.